Let's take a few minutes and look at all the system settings on the AVIC-X850BT. So from our home screen, let's touch the little gear here, and we'll get into our system settings menu. So let's start off with our data edit. Here we can edit our favorite routes. Here we can delete our search history if we care to. We haven't searched for anything on this radio, so there's nothing to delete. And here we can delete learned routes, and we can get rid of all of the routes that we've been using. We'll go back now to that setting. And here we can delete the travel log. If we choose to delete that, you'll see that the breadcrumbs are removed from the screen. Next is our Navi system settings. We'll go in there. Here we can change the road color from red to blue. And you see up here we have map display and guide. As I scroll down through this list, you'll see the blue light here will switch from map display to guide as I move down. We're over on guide now. We'll go back up to the map display settings. Right now 2D mode is locked. We can change that if we want. And we have our day and night display is set to automatic. If you want, you can switch this to only day. On the automatic setting, typically when you turn on the headlights of your vehicle, it'll switch to the nighttime settings. Right now our travel display log is turned on. We can switch that on or off. Have it turned off now. Here's our travel log. We can automatically delete near home or when we power off the vehicle, or we can leave it off so that we keep our travel log information. Next is our current location information. Right now it's set to show the street name, and as you turn from one street to the next, that street name information will change. We could also change that to GPS coordinates or Latin long coordinates if we want to. Next up is our route condition. Right now we're set to the fastest route. We can also change that to the shortest route or to stay on main roads. Now there's a big difference between the fastest route and the shortest route. Fastest route is often interstate highways. Shortest route is often surface streets but full of traffic. Next up is our toll road. Right now we're set to use toll roads. If you want to avoid toll roads, you can choose to do that as well. Next up is our ferries. Right now we can choose to use ferries or we can avoid ferries. Next is our learning route system. Right now it's turned on. We can choose to turn that on or off and have the system learn the routes that we like to use the most. Next up is our time restrictions. Certain roads have restrictions on when you can cross and when you cannot cross, which way you can go on a bridge during rush hour, that sort of thing. We can have our time restrictions turned on or off. Here we can turn freeway use on or off. This is a good thing for rush hour time, and it's also a very good thing for certain young motorists who aren't licensed to drive on freeways in the early part of their driving career. Next up is our distance to or estimated time to our destination. We can choose to have the final destination or waypoints as our estimated time of arrival. Here is our close-up view. Right now a close-up view is on. This means when we come to an intersection, we'll get a zoomed-in view of the intersection. We can turn that on or off. Next is our AV guide mode. This means when we have the source selection on radio or some other audio source, we will get turn-by-turn instruction and a small screen will pop up showing us the next turn that's coming. We can have that turned on or off as well. Next is our app guide mode. So when we can have that turned on or off. For app guide mode, when you're in apps from your iPhone, the guide mode will show up over top of the app showing you the next turn that's coming up. We'll go back. Next up is our speed selections for our road. So this information, 25 miles per hour on a minor ordinary road, 45 miles per hour on a major road, 60 miles per hour on a freeway. We can make adjustments to each of these depending on how fast you typically drive where you are. And when we make these adjustments, this will change the estimated time of arrival based on this information. So if you typically drive at 75 miles per hour when you're on the highway, make that adjustment and you'll get more accurate prediction of when you will arrive at your destination. And down here we can choose between kilometers or miles and yards. And we are through the whole Navi system settings. So we're going to go back a layer here and move over to our AV settings. For more information on the AV settings, check out the audio settings video. And we'll go back. Next up is our source settings. Under here, we can choose our AV input, and we can have it AV input number 1 or number 2. We can switch either one of those on or off. We'll go back. Next is our SD and USB settings. You have an micro SD card right here. You also have the capability of using USB through the CD-IU201N optional cable. And here we can choose the video output mode for either one of those sources. Next up is our DVD and DivX setup. If you're using DivX, you're going to want to go through the setup menu so you can use your DivX DVDs. And last is our iPod settings. So under our iPod connection settings menu, if you are using an iPhone 4 or iPhone 4S, you're going to want to use the 30-pin connector. If we touch that, if you're using an iPhone 5, here it says make sure you've disconnected your iPhone 5 and you've turned the source off. That's very important, turn the source off. And we'll switch here. Here we can choose the digital AV connector. This is for iPhone 5. Okay, we're going to change that back because I'm using an iPhone 4 right now. And we can go back out of that. Next up are our app settings. We'll touch that. Right now our app connection is set to iPhone. Now let me touch that, and we can change it to Android phone here if we want to, or we can change it back to iPhone, but we need to choose what type of iPhone. And so with my source off and wires disconnected from the radio, I'm going to choose OK, and now I can choose a 30-pin connector. I would choose this if I was using an iPhone 4 or iPhone 4S. If I'm using an iPhone 5, I would choose digital AV connector. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to switch this over to my Android connection. Next up is my app keyboard settings, and I'm going to choose US English on that. We'll go back. Next up is our volume and position adjustment. Let's start with our volume and mute settings. Here are our volume settings. Here we can choose how loud the voice guidance is for our turn-by-turn instruction on navigation, and we can choose to turn the beep on or off. Next up, our voice and our ringtone. This is how loud telephone calls are and how loud the ringtone is when the phone rings. Once we've made those adjustments, we can go back. Next up is our mute settings. Here, I can choose my guidance and telephone settings, or just telephone settings, or I can turn that mute or attenuation off. So right now, I'm going to go to both my guidance and telephone settings, and I can choose to attenuate the music a little, attenuate the music a lot, or completely mute the music when I'm making a phone call or when I'm getting route guidance from the nav system. Once I've made those changes, I can go back and back one more layer. Next up is modify my current location. Here, I can modify the location of the vehicle as compared to the street. This is often used in a retail store for demonstration purposes. We'll go back. Okay, let's go back out one level, and we will go over to our system settings. For more information on the Bluetooth settings menu, check out the Bluetooth settings video. Next up are our regional settings. And here, we can choose what language to use. Right now, we're going to use US English. We have a number of different languages to choose from. Next up are our time settings. For more information on the time settings, check out the clock settings video. Here, we can change the splash screen when the system starts. We have a number of different images to choose from. The current image chosen right now is selected here, current image, and I can see what that is. I can touch the screen to go back. I have another, the default image is also the current image right now. We have a couple of different presets to choose from. We can change those presets. You'll see these when you start the vehicle. And alternatively, if you'd like to load your own photo, you could do so from the SD card, and this is the micro SD card slot right here. So we'll go back. Next up is our illumination settings. And we can choose to change the color of the illumination over on the side for the hard keys. We can change to a number of different colors. And we can choose to scan through all of the available colors kind of in a large circle. Now if we want a custom color, just touch the custom button, and we can drag this slider to a different spot on the screen, and you'll see that color come up. Once we've made those color adjustments, we can go back and back one more out to the next setting, which is our backup camera settings. With a backup camera installed, anytime you put the vehicle in reverse, the backup camera can automatically come on. Right now, we have the camera turned on, and its polarity set to battery. That could also be set to ground. And then we have our our parking assist lines adjustments. Right now, we can see the parking assist line adjustments, and we have the red line and the green line. Red line is getting very close to the back of the vehicle. The green line still says you're okay to move, but we can make adjustments to those. We'll start with this coordinate right here, and we can make an adjustment up or down and right or left. We can do that with each of the 4 coordinates that are shown on the screen. Once we've made those adjustments, we can say OK and go back. And then we have the parking assist line display. Right now it's turned off. We can turn that parking assist line on if we care to use that for parking. If you use a backup camera that has parking assist built into it, you might want to turn this off. We'll go back. Next up is our rear monitor output. We can choose to have the rear monitor or the rear display turned on or off on the system. And if we want, we can choose to restore everything back to its factory defaults.